You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and check us out online at beardedtheologians.com. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. This is Matt Franks.
And Zach Bechtold.
This week on the Bearded Theologians, we're going to kind of continue our little series that was an intentional series on Something is Something. And this week we thought we'd talk about prayer. And so we kind of think of it as prayer is prayer. And so Zach, as you think about prayer, what kind of comes to mind?
You know, prayer is one of those funny things that I think I don't want to say struggle with all of our journey. Like I said, struggle is not the right word, but I think it's something. It's one of the things that always is growing or evolving or changing. And I think it's the struggle comes in where we don't allow it to do that. I think we get in ruts or we've learned certain things about prayer or ways to pray that we don't want to let go of when they're not speaking to us, that, you know, oh, it has to be this way. Or I've never done it that way before. And so prayer is prayer, simply that. It's prayer. And I think the healthiest thing that we can do is let prayer be that, whatever it is for that season of life. You know, maybe sometimes prayer for you is very liturgical and going through, you know, written prayers, the Lord's Prayer, some of our liturgies, things like that. Prayer of St. Francis, just using those as our prayer and letting those speak to you in the ways that they do. And then sometimes prayer is very much in the moment, you know, and letting it be that. And then sometimes prayer is tangible, using prayer beads, I know a lot of people like quilts or shawls that have been made for them and, you know, prayed over and find comfort in that. And I think that's just what it is. What are you finding comfort in? Where are you hearing God speak? And not getting in that rut of, I've never done it that way, or that's not the right way to pray. I can't tell you how many times I've walked by Sunday school classrooms of children and heard, well, that's not how you pray. You didn't pray right. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know that there's a wrong way to pray. I think it's how it speaks to you in those moments. And I think we can learn a lot from children, especially in that, because they pray very honest prayers. They're not the most eloquent or well-spoken, but they're open and honest about who they are and where they are and how God's speaking to them. And so prayer is just that. And I think we need to work really hard on letting go of ourselves and letting prayer just be that. What is speaking to us in those moments or that season of life, and be okay with that.
Yeah.
What about you?
And as I think about that, I mean, yeah, what you said, but I always think of that, the Martin Luther quote, to be a Christian without prayer is no more possible than to be alive without breathing. And one of the things that I've been real adamant about in my new appointment is when asking someone to make a decision, I want you to pray about it. Mm-hmm. Don't make a decision until you pray about it, because I want them to have that centeredness of prayer in their decision-making lives. That way, then they can be truly led by the Spirit or feel where God is calling them in the moment. And that's not just a rash decision. And I think it's just one of those things that helps us guide us and lead us in our walk of faith. And that when we're going through things or making tough decisions, prayer is vital to help calm us. I mean, if anything, it centers us and it brings us in a place to be focused and ready to go do or be present in however we need to. And you know, for me, prayer is a central point of my life and ministry, and that I think we struggle with it because we're so afraid that we're not going to have the eloquent prayer, that we forget that our little prayers are just as important as our big prayers. And I think that that's the big thing that we get hung up on, because we want to write those prayers that, you know, make us sound awesome and
right.
Like we have a great vocabulary, but in all honesty, in the real reality of life and in who we are as people of faith, is that prayer is as simple as having a small, but you know, a focus part conversation with God, and that we focus our lives and focus ourselves in that conversation, and that it is a two-sided conversation. God does speak, and it may not be an audible voice, but it may just be a simple nudge or a feeling or an assurance, whatever it is you're praying for. And I think that that's huge. And I just think that prayer is vital for our lives, and it's an important part of our faith. And so if you don't pray, I think that that's something that you need to focus on, and not to be afraid of praying.
Right. Well, and I think on the other side, you said it, listening. I think that might be the other half of prayer that we forget. We get into it, we offer thanks, we go through the things that we're struggling with or other people are struggling with. And I think we forget to give ourselves time to listen. And maybe it's because we just simply forget, we get too busy and we don't do it. Or maybe it's because we're afraid to. Maybe we're asking for that guidance of where and who God's calling us to be. And then we don't want to hear the answer because we're afraid of what that might be and where that might take us.
I wonder,
but listening is huge.
I wonder how much of our lack of praying life is based out of fear. And those times that we refuse to pray, I wonder how often it's based off of fear because of where God may lead us. And that scares us more than if we were just to offer up a simple prayer and to be honest about who we are, and to go to God and allow God to help us make that decision. I'd be intrigued to see, or just ask that question of people, because I know where I am on that. And I can tell you that there have been times where I've been afraid to pray because I'm afraid where that may lead us or where God may nudge us in that direction. Yeah. Right. But then I would be intrigued to see how people, like, what other people's response to that would be. How often have you not prayed in fear?
I would be too, because I don't know that we would be surprised by the answers.
No, but I think it would provide
as far as numbers. But I agree, and that's kind of where I was going. I don't think we'd be surprised by the answer, but I think the conversation around it would be fascinating.
So this week
and helpful.
So this week we throw this question out to you, and please feel free to respond to this, and do it either publicly or send us a private message, and let us know, has there ever been a situation in your life where you've been too afraid to pray? And how has fear hindered your prayer life? And we'd love to have that conversation with you. Either talk to us on our Facebook or our YouTube or our website, or send us a personal message and let us know what as you think about that. And don't ever say you haven't been afraid to pray, because everybody's been afraid to pray.
Everybody has. That's right. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to wrap it up. So go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to ask a secondary question to that as well. Wesley in his 21 questions, one of his questions is, do you enjoy your prayer life? And I think those are two really good questions. Have you been afraid to pray? And on the other hand, do you enjoy the way you pray? Do you enjoy your prayer life? Because when you answer those questions honestly, I think you find some answers and find some life-giving ways to pray and some life-giving things to pray about. And so, let's wrap it up with those two questions. Have you been afraid to pray? What has that been? And do you enjoy your prayer life?
And so continue to have that conversation with us through social media or through our website. Don't be afraid to engage us either publicly or just send us a private message. We'd love to have that conversation with you. Go on our website at beardedtheologians.com and check out all of our great stuff. We've got a lot of great stuff on there, and even go further back to some of our first stuff. We've got some great blogs and all sorts of stuff on our website for you to take a look at. And we appreciate you, listeners, and we hope you share us and continue listening. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
And I'm Zach Bechtel. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and we hope that you share our content online through Facebook and social media, and we hope that you check out our Beardcast store at beardedtheologians.com and pick up some great Bearded Theologians gear. We hope you have a good day.